Well, hello everyone and welcome along. Before we get the full season underway, we thought we'd sit down, we'd live stream the full draft, which will explain how this is going to work over this fantastic brand new season here in the VCOLFM FLExTREME. It's going to be a lot of fun. As you can see, there is no Arjuna. He's decided to not bother turning up this one. It's myself, Lewis McGlade, Luke Cranes alongside. We're going to have a lot of fun here tonight, aren't we?
Yeah, when it comes to professional competitions, they bring the pros in, but they weren't available, so it's me and Lewis again.
You say we're not professional?
That's absolutely what I'm saying.
Well, it's a fun new competition idea, isn't it? To have this idea of how we're basically going to balance BOP. We're going to have that done essentially by the teams. It's a cool idea, cool concept. Yeah,
100%. I think the whole balance of performance becomes the championship effectively in most championships, and there'll be drivers that are like, oh, the organizers have no idea what they're doing and all of that stuff, and they're like, oh, my car doesn't work properly. Well, now they've only got themselves to blame, really, because the balance of performance quite literally will be dealt with by their choices of car.
Yes, indeed. We'll take a look at how things are going to work. We've already had essentially the first stage. This VCO has already announced the initial BOP. Then the teams are going to choose a car. This is going to affect how the BOP budget is going to work for each car. It goes up to 120 kilos. We'll have Niels Nyx along in a second, by the way, to explain how everything is going to work on this. The teams will choose as many times as it takes for them to all be essentially settled. And basically, those cars that are super, super fast on the standard BOP, essentially, they're all going to get moved back because everyone's going to go, oh, I'm going to jump into that car. Brilliant. And then that car's going to slow down effectively because there's more teams in it, and that's going to slow them down. But you don't want to hear me waffling on about how everything is going to work. And also, it's always good to get a little bit of a talking from those behind the scenes. Niels Nyx is going to join us just a touch. Hello, Niels. Now, talk to us about how this BOP is going to work, how tonight's going to work, what we're expecting to see from some of the teams.
So how it works, I think, is pretty easy. As other leagues do it, the admins, which in this case is also me for once, we come up with a rough balance that isn't based just on the single track, but on the tracks of the entire season. And all these kilos that cars will get are added up to a budget where teams can then decide to spend these kilos over the course of the season how they want. So even if we have a car, or let's say we have 10 Hondas, which is not unlikely, who all have 50 kilos, for example, we won't see the same weighted Hondas in all the races because each team can decide to allocate the weight differently. And I hope this spices things up a lot.
It's going to be a fun championship indeed. But what's it like being behind the scenes? Obviously, normally we know you as being a feisty driver out on track, getting wheel to wheel with everyone. You got that respect from those drivers and such behind the scenes? They all listening to you in the briefings?
I don't know how much they listened, how much they've been laughing. We'll see later on. I guess so far the critique was limited. So we're just getting started. I mean, it's the first time I'm in this role, so obviously there's going to be things to learn. But we've made it up until the draft, so I'm happy we took a few steps already. Let's see where we're heading.
Have they seen what you're wearing? That's the big question.
Yes.
If they've seen what you're wearing before you did the briefing, they would have been like, he absolutely means business.
Yeah, I just won't stand up to not hurt the image.
I know you look much more professional than us in the commentary booth. We'll let you get on because obviously it's going to be a busy night for you. But cheers for joining us, Niels.
Welcome.
Wow, there we go. Now, as much as I think some people might still go, hang on a second, I'm still confused about how it's going to work. I promise you, I promise you this will make sense, especially after the first couple of rounds. You'll start to understand exactly where things are going. Again, there's been an initial BOP that has been made. So essentially, as Niels was saying there, quite rightly, over the whole season, over the 4 tracks they'll be running the GT3s, they've essentially gone, right, so this car is the best car, being the Honda NSX. So that will get a base at an initial BOP, that'll get 100 kilograms as a base, and then the more teams that go in it, essentially the more weight that it gets, because it's become the more popular choice. It's a nice, in that sense, it's fairly simple.
Yeah, it's exactly like that, basically. And again, I can kind of give you some values here. So if there was, for instance, one choice of the Honda, they would get 0 ballast. 2 choices of that Honda, there'd be 0 ballast added. But then when it gets to 3 choices, then it's 3 kilograms. And then from every point onwards, they get added ballast. So if 4 choices of that Honda was to be chosen, it'd be 6 extra kilos. And this goes across the whole of the season. So they have to then choose where they use the ballast on their car across those 4 races. And a maximum of 30 can be used at each race. This should update live, by the way. Again, it's all a work in progress. It should make things, a little bit easier because it is visually viewable, opposed to hearing viewable. I don't know what I'm trying to say here.
Nice.
But yeah, it will make more sense as we go on. There could be 15 rounds of choices by the end of it. If there is, then as Niels has said, it could go very wrong. And also, if someone chooses the Jaguar, they instantly win the whole thing. So we don't need to do the races.
That is true. Just to clarify as well, when we're talking about rounds, we're talking about how they're going to work going through that and why they might be up to 15 rounds. And we don't expect this to go on that far, by the way, but everyone will vote at the same time. They will be given 3 minutes when round 1 begins, which I believe it is about to start. And when we've gone through that round 1, after the 3 minutes, every team will have selected. They'll then take a look at what effectively the overall FLExTREME BOP budget is, what every car's looking like right now, and they might go, oh, hang on a second, I've picked the Ferrari 488, but I know that Lexus is actually a bit faster than it should have been, and no one's really taken it, so I might move into that. And so for round 2, then they might move over, and essentially the rounds will come to a close once teams effectively are settled with where they will be. That's why they can move around.
All choices are coming in. Choices are coming in here, Lewis. Oh, it's exciting. This is like the FA Cup draw for the 3rd round. We've got Audi chosen there by Balash Esports. We've got Porsche chosen for GTWR. Lamborghini for Asper. Another Lamborghini for Carbon Simsport. Oh, there's like 42 choices here. But yeah, it's starting to come in. And actually, it's a nice spread of cars so far. But yeah, this is going to be bananas. And basically, they get a chance to confirm stuff as well. So like Lewis said, if we get to round 15, things probably haven't worked out as well as we expected, but they can just go, look, we're happy with our choice, we're done. And then when everybody is kind of happy and they agree that they've picked the right car, then indeed the draft could be over. So it could be over in the 1st round here.
Realistically, yeah. I still think 2-3 rounds probably a bare minimum expected. I think when we were discussing this yesterday, we'd really expect this to take 4, 5. Well, probably more than that, but between 5 and 8 rounds really is the expected bit. And with them being 3 minutes, you can roughly guess at how long this is going to be. It's not actually going to take as long as, genuinely, I thought this was going to take all day, because I thought it was like, are we getting everyone to vote individually and they go through? This is crazy. No, you can see in the bottom right, by the way, that there is only 40 seconds left of this first round, of this first wave of votes coming in. And like you say, teams, they only get 1 choice per round, obviously, and they're already all making their choices now. They're already getting a rough idea as to what some teams will be doing, and to me what that's saying is that you're already starting to make a plan for what to do for round 2. Are you satisfied with your car, or are you going to switch it up? Now I've got to ask you, what car? What car would you go with? Because apparently quite a lot of people want to go with the Aston V8.
Yeah, well, there's 2 choices for me. I think for the longer races, you've got to be looking at, because it was the lowest on the list, the Bentley. I think the Bentley, because of the fuel tank size, and it's not international, the fuel tank size nerf that they had a couple of years ago. So the Bentley is a good choice in terms of endurance, but yeah, I think the Aston as an overall car is still very, very good. You've got to expect there to be some weather at some point. And as you can see, the Aston's been heavily chosen. I did see the AMG had a lot of choices as well, as did the Porsche. And the Honda only had a couple of people choose the Honda. There is I think who we've got, Armentario, we've got Brabham Esports who've decided to choose that car as well. So only 2 choices of the Honda in the round 1 were actually picked there, so that's why you see the balance has not changed, still at the 100 mark. But it's starting to even out, isn't it, Lewis? The ballast starting to even out with these cars. And again, obviously, they will not have that ballast over the course of each race. They have to share that out over the course of 4 GT3 races in the season.
Yeah, like I said, it's going to be interesting to see where they're going to put all of that. We'll discuss that more so in detail when we close in on round 1 and the such. But I also want to note, whilst I've seen the viewing figures, by the way, got loads of people coming along to see this.
All these nerds.
What? Yeah, total. Let's really diminish their hopes of the season. Let's just call them nerds. Let's insult them straight away.
That's what Aston racers love, right? We love stats. We love we love well, we say we love the BOP, we love to moan about it, but yeah, this is the whole point, like being in depth with it, setups of cars, the setups of how a championship is going to work. If you don't prepare for these championships, you're ultimately going to fail. It's as simple as that. So they want to know absolutely every detail in terms of the rule book, and of course, with this being an added extra, seeing how things are working. A couple of people are asking who's chosen what. Like, how long have we got? Should I go through the list here, Lewis, between rounds? I'm happy to do so.
I'm not 100% sure. I think we'll keep that on the on a DL for now, and we'll discuss that in a second. We're going to try and get someone in for an interview. We're going to try this every couple of rounds. We'll get someone in for an interview. So hopefully be able to catch up with some of the teams and be like, why have you chosen what, and all that. We'll just say, by the way, what are your choices? Sat at home, sat in the Twitch chat. Yeah. Tell us what you would pick based on this, based on a post round one, based on the BOP that we've got ahead of us right now. If this finishes here at round one, what would you go for? Are you looking at that thinking, the Aston V8? I know it's got 82 kilos, but to be fair, knowing how that is, spreading that out across various rounds, I think maybe we should go for that. Where would you go? And that's what I kind of like to see is like how would you pick it? Because honestly, I've got no idea, and that's why I get teammates so that they can make the choice and I can complain about it.
Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? I think what is also really good in terms of this championship is every single driver is going to be used during qualifying, potentially, and every single driver will be used in the race, of course, as well. Might be worth bringing up a point about how the championship is going to work. So qualifying, there is going to be, very similarly to Formula One, every single team will be out on the grid for a first session. Each team has 3 drivers they must use during qualifying. 25 teams will advance from qualifying 1. They only have 1 lap that indeed will count, but they have to use a different driver through each session. So if they make it to session 2, then a second driver has to take up the mantle. They only get themselves 1 lap as well. It's like a super pole in each session. And then it will be 15 teams. Is it 15 teams? Yeah, 15 teams advance to Q3. And again, it has to be a third driver that takes part. You have 1 joker, which is effectively during the whole season. If you want to set a second lap in any session, you're allowed to use a joker once during the whole season. So that's another new thing to a championship that I haven't seen before, which I think is really cool.
It's going to be super exciting. Well, we've got Malinowski alongside, of course, joining us here in the Congress. We're going to get a couple of interviews in here between some of the rounds and talk to us. I mean, I don't know if you can let us know what your car. I mean, we can see it anyway, but just letting the viewers know what your car choice is and why.
Well, we initially just picked the Aston. I don't think it's that difficult. Right now, it matters really to hide what we picked. We just wanted to see what the changes are going to be looking like with the popularity ballast. But I think we are going to do a change because we for sure can see right now that there is quite a big difference. But it was to be expected for the Aston after the initial ballast that was there. It's such a hard choice because there's so many cars and so many just potential possibilities that every car, maybe apart from, like Neil said for us in the briefing, maybe apart from those very old cars, M6, Reiter, old McLaren, there are so many cars that can actually work after we go through all those draft rounds. So let's see. I'm excited for this because it's really interesting. I'm really liking it.
Well, Niels is the first driver we spoke to about this whole new way of doing balanced performance, but he also created it, so he's bound to say it's pretty good. But as our first driver outside of that, what do you think of this new system?
I think it's just good that for once, I'm sure people will be angry in the end with some cars getting a certain ballast, but at the end of the day, we are the ones who are basically making the ballast because we see what is there. We are picking what we want. If you pick something and you're not happy with it, well, you're the one to blame. You picked it. So obviously, at the end of the day, we'll see how the championship will play out, what cars are going to work, what cars are not going to work. But we're the ones to blame and we're the ones picking the cars. So in that case, we decide. We can't blame anyone for BOP. So at least in that case, that's a lot better because always there's someone blaming other people for BOP. In this case, we're the ones.
Yeah,
I love the
interesting.
fact that your camera is from feet perspective as well. Always appreciate it. I love
That's the only place where I could
Luke
place my
Crane's
phone,
just in
really.
defeat. It's fine. He's just in defeat. Don't worry about it. Right, we'll let you get back. 'Cause obviously, I think you've got a few more car choices to potentially make over the evening. Cheers for joining us.
Thank you very much, guys. Have fun.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting indeed. Maciej Milanovski there for the Assetto Veloce side of things. Now, normally, I know they're well accustomed to driving in the 720S, going on the McLaren side of things. So I'm sure they've already got 3 or 4 cars in their head and what they're planning on doing so. But it's about time for round 2 to begin. Ooh. Getting spicy, that's for sure. I mean, I don't know what to expect from this. I don't know how many teams are going to move up. I think that Aston Martin V8 is going to absolutely plummet on kilos. I think a lot of people have picked that from the start, and now they're going to start spreading themselves out a little bit.
Yeah, is there a reason why we need to keep it a secret on broadcast?
Don't know.
Because they can all see each other's choices, right?
I don't believe they can. You can only really see your own. So literally, Luke Crane just blowing everyone's car choices out on air.
Yeah, I feel really bad now. I had no idea that it was blocked for everybody because we see the whole form, right? So
yeah.
Right. So to anyone out there I may have offended, it's to be fair. I hosted a show once and accidentally gave away a PC, so this is small fry. And to be fair, everybody's pretty much changing their choice apart from a couple. So yeah, it doesn't really matter what I said in round 1. I can't believe people can't see it. That's unbelievable. My bad. Sorry.
No, I think it makes sense because it's kind of like you don't want to see what everyone else is doing team-wise. You want to see what's happening to the car. You don't want anything to sort of like bias your judgment. Like it needs to be your judgment call on it, not necessarily like you're following the trend of being like, oh my god, Assetto and Veloce, they've gone for they're staying with the Aston, they're going this way, they're going that way. It's like that side of things doesn't really matter. It's kind of like you need to make the decision yourself and go, well, that car's not got as much weight as I was expecting, so I'll go with that one actually. So hopefully we'll have a few people in the Jag, please.
Yeah,
no?
I'm not sure we will, to be honest.
We won't.
Zero chance of that happening.
Definitely not.
I will say one thing, if there's any team managers out there that, I do accept PayPal donations to maybe give some information, just thrown out there, with the power I have. I feel like I've got so much power on my fingertips right now, seeing all of these picks happening. So yeah, if you need any help with your choices, guys, just shoot me a DM on Twitter, we'll be fine.
Nice. Always trying to find a way to have people slide into your DMs. I'm with you.
Absolutely.
Based on the first round, how many teams do you think will stay with the Aston V8? Or do you think people are kind of like, is that kind of like a bit of a safer choice that people have just picked from the start and then have gone, we'll pick that just in case to see where things lie, and then we'll spread ourselves out afterwards? Or do you think people have actually picked it and gone, no, this is actually the car that we're going to go with?
I think it's just left open, right? I think we obviously have no idea what to expect from this because it's never happened before, and neither will these drivers, neither will these teams. So this potentially could go, till tomorrow. In all fairness, like people will be like, I need an extra couple of kilos taken off my car, so I'm going to go and choose this one. But there's also going to be teams that have come into this going, this is my favorite car. Like, this is the car we're comfortable with. We're going to choose this car regardless. And, if there's 10, 12 teams that are like that with one specific car, then it makes it very difficult for them. And then they maybe have to make a change. But yeah, I just think everyone's in the same boat. They have really no idea how this kind of works, or they don't really, they've never really got much experience with this, so it's just kind of winging it at this point. And maybe they're looking for a particular number. Maybe their car was at 100 like the NSX is, and they're waiting for that that can't drop down, for instance. But maybe they don't want it to be over 75 or something like that. They've got a particular ballast that they have in mind that they could probably get away with over the course of the 4 races.
Yeah, I think that's kind of how you have to treat it. Like if you were, say, for example, going with the Honda NSX, which I don't think, I think only 2 teams took in the first round, so we didn't have any extra ballast applied to it. And I think going into it, you're absolutely right. You need to go, right, we actually really want to take that car. What is the lowest amount of ballast that we would take? And obviously it starts on our initial BAP at 100 because it's good on all tracks at the moment. So it starts on 100 kilos. So then you're kind of sat there thinking, right, is it basic? Would I be okay with it going up to 120, which is the maximum that it can get to, or do you you really want to see, like, if it's still at 100 a few rounds in, then I might go for it and just kind of see where things lie. It's those kind of things where I'm like, you've got to have a game plan going into this, and basically doing is what I know we would do, and just totally winging it probably isn't the best idea. You need that research. You need the game plan going into it.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's again, it's just a real big unknown. We've got UKOG there who's just said that they're picking a 650S. Well, they didn't realise that there's a special rule. If you choose that, you actually get the 570 to race against the rest of these teams. So you don't get any kilograms put in your car ultimately, but you're in trouble. Yeah, big time. No, I want to see them. I want to see them break their way into the MP4-12C. We don't have it on the platform, but we'll go with it. But alas, I think round 2 is complete, so we're almost ready. Just to confirm, Lewis. Sorry, go for it. So if they choose the same car twice, that means they're done. That they're happy. Is that what? Is that? We're gonna have to get Niels to confirm this. No, so as far as I'm aware, they can choose the same car a couple of times, but it's like essentially they are happy with the car at that point. But there's no reason why 2, 3, or 4 into the rounds, because they'll still be here, they'll still be paying attention, obviously. But say for example, round 4, suddenly the car that they've been picking, let's say it is a 720, suddenly that shoots up in kilos. They can jump ship. They can do that later on, even if they've picked it 3 or 4 rounds in a row. So as much as they might be satisfied at that point, they can still switch things up later on. How do we know when it's over then? Niels decides. He will just go, no, actually, do you know what? It's right. Over. So that's why he's bought the courtroom jacket. Right. Yeah, okay, exactly. He is ready for anything. If there is someone I would not want to mess with, Niels Niox will be high on that list. That is for sure. He'll have a barrister's wig next, won't he? He's just going to keep coming in with more and more like attire from the courtroom. Is that what you would do? Would you come in with like a proper wig and whatnot? I'd actually have the Twitch BOP hammer with me and just be like, I feel the wrath of me. I've made this whole thing. It's me. Like, you're not having that car. Oh, there we go. Well, here we go. There's a change, Lewis. Yeah, we've got a few extra kilos added then to the Honda Evo, so a few teams have moved over it, and as expected, quite a few have departed from the Aston V8. Still, no one adding kilos over to the Aston V12 Jag 650 or the Rex GT3. That's fair enough. I'm not too offended. I think a few more have gone into the AMG also, but interesting to see quite a few teams have moved over into the Honda Evo. So that's an interesting little switch. I'm sure we'll see a few of these bailing from their certain cars, but we'll have to wait and see. Yeah. We'll catch an interview, though, from Carbon Sim Sport as well whilst we're here. And again, introduce yourself a little bit and talk to us about what you've been doing car-wise, where you've been going, and well, maybe you don't want to release that too much on air, but what your thought process is coming into this.
Hi, so I'm Patrick. I'm the manager of Carbon Sim Sport, and so far, it looks interesting, to be honest, from the car point of view. And we went for Lambo so far, but I'm not sure if we will stay on that car. We will see. I mean, I thought it will be changing much more than it's changing currently. So yeah, we will have to discuss in the team, and then we will see what will happen on the round 3, basically. Well, I got one question. We were trying to discuss if you had a plan coming into this. Is there one specific car that you were like, do you know what, that's pretty much what we're going to go for, but obviously, if the BOP changes significantly, do you have 3 or 4 backups, or is it a case of you are open to change your car at any point? Well, we have a few cars that we were planning to pick, but it all depends on the popularity block at this moment, and it can be that we will just change the car the last second, basically, on the next round, or maybe we won't change it at all. It's a tough question, to be honest. And yeah, I don't know, to be honest. We have to we have to discuss that in the team, and we will see.
Well, we'll let you again jump back into it, Patrick. Cheers for joining us. Cheers for clearing things up as to what's going to be happening with Carbon, and we'll see if you maybe change your plans as the evening goes on.
Yeah, thank you guys. Cheers.
No worries. So there we go, another one of our teams to have caught up with, and we can see again how things are lying after the second round, going into the third round. So they've all, a few of them have made their choices on top of the initial budget that or the initial BOP that they've done. So a few teams have sort of started to spread themselves out on the cars.
Yeah, I think Patrick's got the perfect strategy there, really. He might change the car, or he might not change at all. Like, perfect. Like, that's just, in a nutshell, what a draft is all about. So, yeah, thank you for that, Patrick. We really appreciate it. Yeah, I think it's interesting to see here that, Honda's still, of course, got the highest in terms of the ballast, 106 now. But look at the AMG. The AMG, which is a very sort of middle ground car, is pushing its way up. Now it's the second in terms of BOP. And has anyone else moved up? It's a tie almost, well, nearly. BMW M4's caught up to the Audi. But it's the Aston V8. The Aston, which, again, I feel like is being chosen because regardless of kilograms added to the car, it is very good in terms of adverse conditions. That transitional period in terms of weather as well is very, very good. So it kind of outweighs all of the balance of performance ballast being added to it. Of course, if you get 30 kilos on every single race, it's going to affect it to some degree. But those, you've got to expect it to be wet weather at some point, and the Aston is really that strong.
Again, for anyone just joining us, let's roll things back and explain exactly how things are working this evening. We've begun with an initial BOP that's been put out by the team behind the scenes, where it's dependent on how good the cars are essentially across the season over all of the rounds. They get given a certain amount of kilograms, which is their BOP for the season, which for the Honda, for example, was 100 kilos coming into this. And then essentially the teams that are making the choice, the more teams that go into a certain vehicle, the more weight that it gets added to it, the more ballast that is applied to that car. And again, for the first two cars, no extra ballast is applied. The third car, it'll be 3 kilos. The fourth car, it'll be 6. The fifth car, it goes up by 10. And then the sixth car, it goes up by 15 kilos. And so on down to, depending on how many people pick it. But past that point, realistically, we shouldn't see too many cars having more than that equated to them. But that budget, that ballast then gets applied, and that becomes the ballast budget essentially for the season, which they would then apply as they see fit throughout the 4 rounds that we have. Again, very interesting, very new form. Again, when it comes to how BOP is applied, and as we've catched up with some of the teams earlier, they only have themselves to blame if they pick a car where they're like, well, the BOP's terrible on this.
Yeah, they have only got themselves to blame. I will say one thing, they kind of don't want it to be completely balanced out as well. So they want to try and keep the Honda as far away from all the other cars as possible. So they've got to be clever in that regard, Lewis. But yeah, I will, after we've spoken to our next guest, I'll try and go through some of the changes that teams have made, not specifically mentioning the teams.
Yes, indeed, from Brabham Esports, Alaric Enslan, who's just joined us at the moment. Talk us again, I've said before with a few teams now about how they've been changing up their game plan potentially a little bit through. Now, obviously, we've not said anyone's choices on air. Don't worry. Might have done a couple of times, it's fine. I did notice, some of your choices through the first couple of rounds. A change of mentality at all throughout this evening so far, or is it going according to plan?
First of all, hello, gentlemen. So far, according to plan, I think we're just going to stick with what we know. Obviously, I think a lot of teams competed in SRO this year and dealing with ballast and things. And obviously, you get to learn the car even with ballast. So I think that's the main strat most of the teams are going to follow when it comes to the car selection. Because if you know a car well, you know how it handles with ballast and stuff like that, just go with it. Stick with it.
Yeah, so that's quite the opposite of what we just heard from Carbon Sinsport. Patrick, they're saying that he was quite open to change. Do you feel like the BOP is going to make too much of a difference over the course of the championship, considering everybody's going to be pretty elite in terms of the driving ability, and with this new balance performance, every car's going to be pretty even, right?
Oh man, I think we're in for a wild ride. It's definitely a first for, I guess, ACC, where you see a system like this. So it definitely spices it up a bit. Hopefully it does bringing it a bit equal compared to what we've seen in the past when it comes to the ACC. So I mean, it's you can't really judge it by this. It's pretty much impossible. We'll probably see it in the first round. But yeah, I'm excited. That's for sure.
Well, we'll again let you jump back to it because I think round 3 is complete. We want to take a look at some tasty data, as I'm sure pretty much everyone else does as well. Cheers, Alaric, and we'll let you get back to it.
Cheers, guys.
Nice. Again, we've just finished the 3rd round of voting, so a few teams have switched on out from a couple of cars. You can see the Aston VX come down a little bit, but look at the BMW M4.
Yeah, that really has now moved up to nearly where the Honda was at the start of the day. So I would imagine there are going to be a few teams that are going to decide to unchoose the BMW M4 because I'm not sure the car is strong enough to have that kind of weight to be dealing with over the course of the 4 races. A little stat for you all, there were 11 changes from round 1 to round 2, and then in round 3 there was 12 changes. So there's more changes made in round 3. You think it would become a bit easier, Lewis, as we went on, but no, teams are indeed chopping and changing. Let's see how many out of the teams that changed from round 1 to round 2 stuck that next time round. Well, I can tell you that it was indeed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 teams indeed did stick with their choices from round 2 to round number 3. So I don't know whether you're into those kind of stats and whether that's going to help anybody, but yeah, it's interesting to see that we're seeing more changes the further we go on.
Yeah. It's also, I guess it's kind of interesting that of the teams that have switched, most of the teams that have switched in round 3 are teams that didn't switch in round 2. I find that interesting. They've gone round 1, round 2 and been like, yeah, this is fine. And then suddenly they've seen something and been like, no, actually. That's an interesting mentality. But it kind of almost tells me that so far already, quite a few teams are pretty satisfied with where they are when it comes to their car choice. Again, sticking to that game plan. But as you quite rightly pointed out there, is that we've spoken to a couple of drivers now who have completely different philosophies when it comes to an approach to how to make this car choice. I think that in itself is pretty fascinating.
100%. I think if you gave everyone free choice and said there's no balance of performance, everyone's going for Honda. It's so far ahead right now. And we saw from round 1 that it didn't have any ballast added to it. So a couple of teams are like, well, hold on, people are maybe a bit scared to choose this because it will put it miles up in terms of weight on the car, and of course that's going to affect your fuel burning. It's also going to affect the tire wear on the car, but then they were like, well, hold on, no one's going for this, and maybe we can sneak our way in with a Honda, and then a couple of people chose over, and it's now 106 kilos, so it's all starting to again balance itself out. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how many people changed this time round. Again, it was 11 from round 2 to round... it was 11 from round 1 to round 2, and it was 12 changes from round 2 to round number 3. I think if we do this again, what it might be cool to have, and I guess you could probably work it out by just looking at the data, but having a genuine tower that says how many people have chosen which car, just visually for people to watch at home. And if anyone has any questions in the chat, by all means ask. Me and Lewis probably won't be able to answer you, but we'll try.
But the thing is we have contact to the people who can tell you. That's the important bit. We'll just have to drag Niels back in there somehow and be like, hey, do a bit of a Q&A mid-broadcast. Now's as good a time as any before we begin this 6-round season as we get ready for round 4 of the voting process. So once again, the teams will take to it. You can see on here what has been done after round 3 and what we're expecting to see over round 4. I wonder what changes we're going to see.
Yeah, well, round 4's already nearly done, to be honest. There's only maybe 6 teams or 7 teams that haven't chosen a car already. So, normally in sim racing, it's hard work to get people to do something, but this is working out very, very well indeed. But looks like we've got another guest, Lewis.
Yes, indeed, from West Competition Racing. We've got Alex here. Now, again, you're a team, I'm going to spice up because I normally have been asking what your game plan is, but you're a team that we've normally seen taking on the BMW M4, if memory serves. Now, has there been changes of mindset coming into the season, maybe using cars that might be out of your comfort zone because of where the ballast has been? Has any of that affected your opinion going through this? And by the way, we still, again, don't know what you've picked. So just to clarify that.
Well, just to state it clearly, yeah, we picked the BMW M4 for SRO competition last year, but in the upcoming months, we've tried to test a few other cars as well. we've been running comparatively in other GT3s as well. So yeah, this poker game is really interesting for us. And from now on, given those changes from one round to the other that you've just mentioned, I'm really curious whether some people will be expecting this draft show not to end very soon so they can just pick some other cars and then retrieve their main options and stuff like that.
Oh, so you think people are playing silly games here? So the people are trying to sort of influence it, and then maybe we'll get caught out later on.
Yeah, when they realize that this was the final round, some of them might be not that happy with their the fact that their choices are final.
So that's why there's 17 Jags chosen right now, Lewis.
Yeah.
Wow. Again, I do wonder if there's going to be any changes of mindset. Cheers, Alex, for joining us very quickly here as we'll get ready for round 5, because I think there's going to be some more choices to spice it up. Cheers. And there we go. That's why when I was chatting to Niels yesterday about this, he was like, every team, there are a lot of games being played. I kind of get that. I think some teams might well be playing those. Every round has to be treated as if it is your last round. You can't playing silly games. Fair enough. It's all a bit exciting and whatever, but you've got to treat it as if this is the last round, as if this is going to be your car for the Falls, as if you are satisfied with the weight in the car. I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, I agree. To be completely honest there, I think now you have to, but in the early rounds, I guess you could. I never even thought of it like that.
No,
I never thought people could be just sort of playing the system, but of course they can. It's very similar to what we're seeing with the ERWC, right? The meta, trying to find out the meta of how to win, a different way of doing sim racing in the more esports version. So yeah, that's absolutely spot on that people may be trying to manipulate the draft to indeed work in their favor. I will say one thing here: there are some Bentleys being chosen now, Lewis, which they have been chosen, but not to as frequent as we've had previously. How many car changes have we had this time? So we went 11, then 12, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, potentially 11. I don't think there will be. I think it'll be 10 now. So it's gone down a couple of spots here, but still plenty of changes happening.
Yeah, so like I say, it's interesting that some teams, again, looking at the list once more, that we can see, by the way, it's not a public list, just to clarify, and anyone who's coming at us asking for what teams have chosen what, we don't take bribes. We don't take any bribes in the commentary booth. We're actually very good boys in the commentary booth. But yeah, it's interesting that quite a few teams might well have switched up. They've stayed the same for 3 rounds, and yet suddenly here we are going into the 4th, and now they're changing up. And I think that's interesting to see whether they're going to, if there's going to be even more of that through the evening, where they're going to think, actually, no, now I've switched and now I'm satisfied, or whether actually it's kind of like, no, I will go back to that car that I was with for 3 rounds. What are we changing our mind for?
I will say one thing: 4 teams have actually picked the same car for the first 3 rounds and then changed for round 4.
Yeah.
So 4 teams have done that, and that's the first time we've had that many teams go same and then change something. So yeah, I think the BOP kilograms and whatnot, it really starting to take their effect.
Oh.
As you can see here, the Aston V8 still catching up, but look at it leveling out now, Lewis. It's very close between, we've got 84 kilos as the second in terms of how many kilos they'll have across the season. Then you got the Aston in third. Then it's very close, isn't it? It's Porsche with 83. So it goes 84, 83, 82. Tied then between AMG and now Aston. Then it's 79, 75. So it's very close then between second and around about 7th.
I genuinely feel if you took a screenshot of round 1's budget, of the round 1 BOP budget, and then compared to this, I think you'd be pretty close. Because again, the Aston V8 has shot up once more, up to roughly where it was. I think it was on 82 actually at the end of the first round. Some differences, obviously, as some have switched out. Like you were saying, a few teams have gone with the Bentley, and that's given that an extra 3 kilos above its 25 base BOP. And then, of course, a few teams it's actually the same weight on the Honda Evo as it was last round, which means that I don't think anyone's actually switched out on any of it. But now we get to speak to someone who's got plenty of experience on Assetto Corsa Competizione. It's Bastian Richter, of course, joining us here, Unicorns of Love, etc. I mean, how many race wins have you taken over the last sort of 18 months on the platform? We know that you tend to stick with a Merc, or at least that's normally what we kind of see you around in the Mercedes and whatnot. Has this kind of competition potentially pushed you into maybe trying out quite a few more cars, especially those that you really wouldn't even think about twice for a normal championship?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we were driving different cars in other championships as well already, but like for this format, we are completely open to go for whatever car seems to be the quickest for us. And I mean, obviously, with the AMG, we have a little bit of an advantage because we know the car pretty well, so we can maybe compensate for a few more kilos. But yeah, still, if we see a different car with a good pop, we will just go for it as well.
Bastian, you've got a chance here to become an absolute cult hero of the championship. Can I mention the first choice that you guys made in round one?
Yeah, sure.
Will you allow me to do it? They're the only team that's done it. They chose the Jaguar, ladies and gentlemen. So instantly, they are the favourites within the fans of this championship. Incredible scene.
Yeah, I mean, for the first rounds, it's obvious that this will not be the final choice, and we have yet to see how many teams will choose a different car compared to what they choose now. So yeah, we just went for a fun pick.
So and even more breaking news, in round 4, they also chose the Jaguar. Maybe a typo, but now it's draft over. Oh no! Oh dear! Unicorns of Love are in a Jag.
I mean, to be fair, I'd take a Unicorns of Love livery on a Jaguar. I don't know about you.
That'd be
anyway.
mint, wouldn't it?
Could still be a competitive car on Monza, maybe.
Oh well, there we go. That's it. You've got to pick it now. Right. We'll let you jump back in. Cheers, Bastian. And now we need lots of mock-ups of Unicorns of Love Jags, to be honest.
Yeah, I'll take care of that.
Lovely. Awesome stuff. Well, getting ready for another round of votes. And again, interestingly enough, when you compare it round to round, specifically one to the next, rather than looking at the bigger picture, quite a lot of the teams will only, from what I'm seeing, they've only really changed on one round and then not the next one. Quite a lot of them have sort of been sat there for a few rounds. And as we get ready for round 5 of the voting process, and that said round 3, but
Mike can't count. It's the worst person to be involved here.
It's fat fingers. No, it's not. It's not Mike's fault apparently.
Round 2 plus 3.
Quite a lot of teams are kind of they're sat there for a couple of rounds and then they're changing. I think that's kind of again interesting that they're not changing basically every round. They're just sitting there. From what I'm seeing right now from quite a few coming in, quite a lot of them are keeping a very similar choice to what they've had for the previous few.
Yeah, I've seen one team that have, and again, obviously I'm not going to mention who and whatnot because I've already done that 3 times today. I shouldn't do that again. That actually have chosen the BMW all the way through, but changed the model. So they've had the BMW M4, and then they changed to an M6, which surely is a typo. Who knows, though? I guess it is a viable option if no one else chooses it. It is very much down there with, 34 over the course of the season. Again, I still feel like the Bentley's a really good choice. With that low killing, I think maybe if you lose a couple more, that Bentley is a genuinely good choice because of that fuel tank.
Is that where you'd go? Right now, is that where you would go?
I would need something with a GT2 engine, mate, to be honest.
Well, I mean, if we... if we pretend
I would genuinely need a couple of bodies in the back of everyone else's car for me to be competitive. So but I'm the wrong person.
I thought you were quick back in the day.
No, definitely not. No, not against these people. These ladies and gentlemen in this championship are absolutely ridiculous, and I would really give them a urine test, to be honest. And that's the only reason they're quicker than me.
Is that no? Actually, no. We can't go down this road. We're going to get right off topic from what we're discussing with on the whole. Basically, these drivers in this championship are very, 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 very fast, and we aren't in the commentary booth. We're in the commentary booth for a reason, and we always say that. But yeah, I mean, from this, where would I probably go? I mean, Bentley's pretty decent, of course. Like you say, you need to pick it for the style of racing, and it is endurance racing after all. I have no idea where I'd lean because I'm not great as a driver, but potentially. See, I've got the only one that I've got like a decent amount of experiences in is the 488, but I think that's a bit too much weight for what I'd be comfortable with in the 488. It's a good car, don't get me wrong, but it's sort of like that's a little above where I'd be happy going. Let's go for it.
I think if you swapped the Porsche with the Ferrari, I think the Porsche would be a very good choice. I think it needs to lose maybe 10 kilos over the course of the season for it to be ridiculous, but the Porsche is a really good all-round car. In a straight line, depending on how you set the car up, it can be sluggish, but if you set it up properly, it can be very quick. Also, Tidgeney, I'm not giving you a PC. I made that mistake once, not doing it again.
Well, we've got Robin here from LFM. Of course, we've said before, it's the VCOLFM FLExTREME. LFM, Low Fuel Motorsport, been a massive pusher of online competitions, very much in the recent past. Even my manager in my restaurant races in LFM. That's how much it's getting out there. Talk to us about this competition, about how things have been behind the scenes and whatnot, and the build up to this series.
Yeah, quite interesting. First of all, hello to you, and hello chat,
Hi.
and nice to hear you. Yeah, LFM is growing very fast, and we are representing the whole scene in ACC and of course in Air Factor 2 from now on. And yeah, it's very much of work that you can't see behind the scenes. Get very good pushed by our teammates, and yeah, the stewards are helping a lot. It's very much work. So yeah, we're quite happy with all, and lots of work to do.
Yeah, what was the decision maker behind bringing this whole balance of performance alive, or to life?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. Niels did the work there, Niels Naujoks, and yeah, it's very interesting. So it's more, I'm more nervous than in a race, and it will be interesting. So yeah, let's see.
I've been told by Niels that apparently you still need to vote. So there is also that to deal with. Sorry about that. Mate. Literally just throwing you straight under the bus on broadcast. This is coming again from those that are fighting us behind the scenes, that are constantly in our ear telling us what needs to be done.
He's just trying to Low Fuel Motorsport Jaguar. Wow, what a
just
choice.
trying to throw you under the bus.
Yeah, of course. We will drive the Jaguar.
I want to very quickly ask you though, before we let you jump back into the voting process, into the teams and whatnot. Yeah, like you said, LFM's been growing so quickly over the recent past, partnership with VCO as well to run this championship. What should we be expecting from Low Fuel Motorsport in future? Considering, like you said, what's been done on ACC, what's been done on R Factor 2. I mean, I say pretty much everyone that I've been speaking to on both platforms have just been driving on LFM stuff for the last few weeks. What's the next plan for you lot?
Yeah, it's interesting. We don't know what to do already from now on. We have lots of work to do, and it's still very interesting from every new day. And you have so many opinions, so many ideas, and the whole thing is very fast growing. And every day we get a new ideas, so it will be quite interesting.
Well, we'll let you jump back into it. He did make his way, by the way, so don't panic too much. Yeah. Cheers, Robin.
Yeah, thank you.
Lovely stuff. Great. Again, I mean, I am. By the way, I'm not joking. Genuinely, my manager in the restaurant that I work in does absolutely race on LFM on ACC. That is a true story, and it's just crazy. That's how much LFM's out there. If you'd have asked me 12 months ago what LFM was, I wouldn't have had a clue. Whereas now it's bang right up there in all of the ISO racing. I love it. Yeah,
come out of nowhere, isn't it? Really. But, offer a service similarly to what iRacing provides in terms of the ELO system and numbers. We love numbers, right? We love being able to improve and get higher up in a list per se. Then people are going to gravitate towards that. Now, well, there's some big changes here, and actually the Honda is increased up to 110, and the M4 I thought might come down. I just thought that it might be a case of it being a little bit too overweight for the season, but no, more choices on the M4, and it's up to 91 kilos.
A few, of the teams that have changed, only, I will say, as much as this does look almost drastically different to the previous, only 6 teams have actually changed. But I think it's because they've jumped out of things like the Aston Villa, and they've jumped into things like the Honda, like the BMW M4. And curiously, 3 of the teams that have switched have actually switched on the last 3 consecutive rounds. So they're playing a little bit of hot potato on which car they're actually going to end up in, which again, at this point is, to be quite honest, almost a bit of a dangerous game, because you might end up being lumped with a car where you're actually sat there being like, wait, this isn't This isn't the car I actually wanted. But this is why you got to treat every round like the last round. You've got to keep on with it.
Yeah, 100%. And it may look on the surface of this grid here, oh, well, it's only going to be a couple of cars in this championship. Oh, no, the spread is massive. There's going to be so many different manufacturers, and that's what this balance and performance system has indeed given us here. We are going to have a grid with loads of cars. I never understood the whole, when people come into a chat on Twitch, go, oh, it's an Aston Martin Cup. Like, who cares? They're race cars. But, you know, with this one, there's going to be loads of different cars. So all of you people who do like to shout at clouds and you're old, then, well, you're going to see loads of different cars. It's going to be fun.
Yes, indeed. As we'll get ready because the next round will begin. We've got Grip Hacks Engineering, of course, Timu's alongside us, and I kind of checking out some of the lists, some of the teams that have been switching it up. But again, not going to release your choice or anything. But it does seem as though you're pretty set on the car that you're going for. Again, I'm assuming this is almost just like blinkers on, just focus. You want that car. It doesn't matter almost what way it is. Or is there a number that you're looking for, thinking if it goes above that, I've got to jump ship?
I mean, we've got a plan. We do have a array of cars that we are looking at and looking to like pick from the list that we have agreed with, but we are happy with the choice that we have now, and trying to just looking at the list and waiting to see what happens.
I'll ask you, if it was to finish right now, would you be happy with your choice? And my second question is, does the mirror extend to your ceiling?
Wait, the mirror. It does not. It does not. It's like, I wish.
Listen, you got so confused.
But, if it was the pop right now, that would happen. I don't know. I'm kind of surprised with some of the cars like getting so little ballast. To be honest, I feel like there's like some specialist cars in the list that are not being picked because they are not driven by many people. Like, I feel like the Audi and the M4 and the V8 might be picked a bit more because they are very like generalist cars. And I think like looking at the pop right now, the winning car is Ferrari or the Porsche, in my opinion. But I don't know. We'll see what happens the next round.
Not tempted to jump ship to either of them then?
I mean, we might or not. I don't know.
Nice.
All right, Patrick.
Very good. Right, we'll let you jump back into it. Cheers, Timu.
Yeah, thank you.
Timu Carpenter there joining us. This is, again, it's the classic, we might switch, we might not. Our junior will constantly bring it up about one of the points that I made on a broadcast once where I said the gap will either close, it will grow, or it will stay the same. And as soon as I said it, I was like, that is not only the stupidest thing that I've said in the broadcast, but also the most correct, because one of those three options will happen. It's just which one. And it's the same thing. But when you're involved in these interviews, you know the teams are listening to their own degree. And if they go, oh, actually, he's just said the Ferrari is a good choice. Maybe it is actually a good choice. Maybe I should go for it. It's all part of the game. Maybe it's a terrible choice and he's just trying to play the cards right.
We're in danger of me being right, by the way. Like I said, if the Porsche lost a couple of kilos, it'd be the car. And well, there we go. It was team who knows, right? So maybe I do know what I'm talking about a little bit. And again, I'm always right once in the broadcast, only once. So.
It is a tricky car to drive, though, isn't it? The
yes,
Porsche.
It does want to kill you every opportunity.
Yeah, I remember chatting to, this is a couple of years ago now, with Josh Rogers after a stint at Paul Ricard, going through the fast right-hander at the end of the backstretch, thinking, he was like, every time I turned in, it was like, yep, this car's going to kill you. And you just have to do that for the entirety of the race. And like I say, not too many drivers can manage to handle it. Certainly not teams of drivers, like to actually have a group. But these days in sim racing, quite a lot of them can at this level. If they all were in the Porsche throughout the entire season, I still think most of them would be pretty much okay all the way through. That's just how it goes.
Yeah, certainly does. And I think a massive part of real racing and sim racing to reach that next level is to learn how to be able to counter steer on the exit of a corner perfectly for 24 hours straight in these big endurance races, because that is, you're just seeing this from sim races and, not so much in the real world. Physics are quite good in the real world of racing. But yeah, counter steering in sim racing is massive. Just trying to get those wheels in a straight line. So yeah, we're seeing it quite often.
Got another one of our drivers and teams to jump in here. Fred Olsen from Pulse Sim Sport. I mean, we've seen you again in plenty of competitions on ACC. Is there a change of philosophy coming into this because of how the BOP's working and what you're expecting to see through this? Is the BOP at the moment, is that list looking what you were roughly expecting coming into this? The Aston Villa obviously being quite high up on the weight now.
Yeah, everyone knows that the Aston is a very strong endurance car, and I also thought that the M4 and the AMG was going to be quite far up the BOP list as well, especially on how good, especially the Mercus looked in the wet as of late after the aero changes to that car. I wasn't expecting the Honda to be that heavily bopped, but I think it's a good choice to do so because, as we've seen as of late in the latest months after they updated it to the Evo 22 version, the car has easily been the fastest car on the grid. So yeah, the BOP looks interesting, and it's going to be interesting to see how the BOP sways now going into the next round, because if we have a next round, we'll see. We don't know that yet.
Well, either that's a really big table or a really small guitar. I'm not sure which one. But
it's a ukulele.
You want me to ask you, you've put it there on purpose. What's the trophy for? Let's not worry about this competition. No. What did you win the trophy for? That's why it's there.
No, I didn't even think of it, honestly. No, it's just for some small endurance thing. For some reason, I got a big trophy for it. It's compensating for my small skill, I guess.
Great trophy, though. Well, I will again let you jump back into it. I can see your choices have been remaining pretty consistent throughout, but maybe a couple of rounds in the future might switch you up if we do indeed get those couple of rounds. Could be closing in on the final very, very soon. Cheers, Fred.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Lovely. Well, like you say, absolutely right on the point of, again, like we've said before, you've got to treat every round like the last round, and we could be closing in on it quite soon. Obviously, not too many teams switching over the last couple of rounds. I think only 3 switched on this round. Yeah. Interestingly enough, 2 of those teams that switched have switched for the last 4 consecutive rounds. So they are really not sure what they're doing, apparently.
Yeah, wow. From the information I'm getting here, we might be. What we need now is Nils to come on with a whistle and blow a whistle like a football game or something, like a referee. But I think we're done. I think the draft is done and dusted here, ladies and gentlemen.
I think so too.
And we're about to get all of the final results in terms of ballast and whatnot for the season. But yeah, it's taken 6 rounds by the looks of it. And well, here is Nils. Where's your whistle?
Yeah, I'm still expecting one. Where is it?
I'm not sure, actually. The whistle will not get filtered out by the microphone. But yes, it was very interesting to see. And now in the overview, it indicates that only very few teams have actually made a change. And we had this internal figure. Once it's 3 teams or less, we're going to stop. And we've reached that point. So whatever you're displaying next is going to be our final result for the season.
Has it gone the way you were expecting? Obviously, behind the scenes, watching everything, kind of having a big understanding of the picture. Were you expecting it, for one, to take potentially 6 rounds? Were you expecting it to take more, maybe less? And is the BOP roughly where you were expecting it?
Very tough. It was everything is so new, everything is so unclear. I had no idea in the first place if the format would work and we'd actually get new ballast each round. But yeah, everything, our tech in the back end definitely has worked thanks to Google. And the kilos have indeed been going up and down quite a bit. I was also expecting the Aston to go up and down because it started fairly low. And then it shot up right away, as it should, that people saw the car was quick, so a lot of teams chose it, and the weight went up, and a few teams chose a different car afterwards. And then they tried again a few times, but every time the weight skyrocketed, so at some point they left it aside, went for another car, and I think, we do have a few cars where I think they could be pretty much on par now. Personally, I'd like to see the BMW M4 a little lighter, but this season this has so much stuff that is going on during the races. So I hope that 20 kilos to the Honda is still decent to maybe get a shot at a track here and there.
Well, I think whilst we've got you here and all that lot, let's take a look at the BOP for this season. You can see, said the Honda Evo's had a few kilos added to it. The BMW M4, just with a fair few. The Aston V8's had the most added to it, obviously suggesting then that it's the most picked car. Bentley having a couple of extra ones at the end. Is there any car on here, Niels, that you're sat there being like, that is a great BO, like they're in a great position? Is there any car that you're almost potentially even a little bit afraid of?
I think the Lamborghini, and now there's the typical term everybody says, in the right hands, could be a weapon on one or the other track. Definitely not all, but those could be the tracks where they dump the weight and then they are without weight for Spa potentially or so. And suddenly the Lambo could have a fair shot there because it's insane in the straight line. It can probably manage or stay in the way in the mid sector. Of course, the weather is going to play a role, so it's so difficult to see things, but the important part is done, that everybody knows what they're facing, and now they can get to the more strategic, maybe more tactical side of things to, get an understanding on which track they want to use which amount of weight, which is probably a huge chunk of work everybody has to do now. But also, I'm looking at the Lexus. I think it only has one strong track in this calendar where it might just use the kilos or it dumps it elsewhere and then is very light for the rest. So it could just be one of those easy to drive underdogs, potentially. Just like the Nissan that I was expecting to be chosen by at least one team. I don't actually know if someone ended up with it right now. But that is great because I think the Nissan is indeed one car that's always really nice to drive. It's really unique. It has some very clear strengths and weaknesses, which is always something that you can work with as a team and driver and then cater to those strengths or, at least know where you're suffering and then work against that.
You sound surprised, Niels, but your team's chosen in this, what are you on about?
He's been doing this. You've been trying to do this all broadcast.
we might be a bit tied to a certain brand, so I was a bit sidelined here, and I was just hoping the BMW wouldn't be chosen by too many teams. But I think we're in a good spot there too. Would have liked the Mercedes to be a little heavier, but we're just gonna punt them in one race, and we'll be happy.
Nice. That's how you do it. Oh, goodness me. Well, that there is basically the beginning building blocks of the season. And like you've said about some teams, they might potentially, or some guys might dump the weight basically just as early as possible, or on a round where they know the car's going to be bad, just accept that it's going to be 9 hours of complete pain and try and get most of it done. I'm fascinated to see how that works when the season starts, which is not very long away. The 26th of November is that first round. Can't wait for it, Luke. It's going to be so much fun. We're going to COTA for the first round, which obviously is a track realistically on ACC that not too many people will be too familiar with because it's not that old.
And it's the most overrated track in the world, but that's a story for another day.
Hate it.
Yeah, it will be interesting. Teams will be, dumping the weight, and it's also a case of if you can keep yourself clean and out of trouble, even if you've got really heavy weight, you can make up lots of positions in these endurance races across a 9-hour race. So it's not all said and done, even if you've got the heaviest car on the grid and maybe you've bopped, the worst out of everybody. If you can keep it clean, you can make up points. So imagine if you've got a really strong car for 2 rounds, but then you kind of throw it away for the other 2, but keep it clean. A couple of top 10s, a couple of top 3s, you could win this championship. It's going to be that close. Just being consistent is going to be vital.
I was going to ask Niels again, just to, because you're actually quite good at explaining this kind of stuff. Clarify again how the BOP budget's going to work, how just over the season, so that everyone right at the end of this can fully understand exactly how teams and whatnot can approach it with. Let's say, for example, let's use the Honda NSX as an example. They've got 106 kilos. How they can use that through the season.
Yeah, okay. So obviously the game limits us to only allocate 30 kilograms max to any car, which means even if the Honda takes 30 kilos for 3 rounds, it will still have, 16 kilos left. So they don't have a lot of wiggle room to play with. They will be pretty heavy every race. They will not have a race where they're completely without weight, which I think is fair because the Honda certainly is one of the fastest cars in the game, if not the fastest right now. We'll have 4 races in the GT3s. So we have 4 races where teams need to decide how much weight they allocate. They are free to do so as long as they manage to get rid of all weight.
Oh, well, he's just been pulled straight out, so that's fine.
Beautiful face is still here, but not a lot else. Oh, there we
There you
go.
go, we've got him back.
my Discord just restarted there because it was so exciting, I guess. So yeah, just 4 races to spend the kilos, 30 kilograms max. You're not allowed to have any ballast left by the end of the season. And the website also prevents that. So teams always need to allocate as much weight. So they will finish with 0 kilos by the end of the season. And just because we have this thought of leveling things out, right? We do this whole budget system. We have teams choose ahead of the season, everything we just did. And additionally, we're going to have 2 races where we're driving in the M2 and in the 992 Cup Porsche, where there won't be any weight. So equal cars for everyone. And it's going to go down to who is solely the best driver. No talks about the best car. No talks about BOP. It will be raw.
Now, we don't have a graphic prepared, by the way, for all of the car choices that have been made. So you'll just have to check out social media afterwards. And whilst you're over there, you might as well follow VCO and also go over to the VCO Simi Awards and vote for me. Don't vote for Luke. He's a terrible... No, I'm joking. It's fine. So just throw you straight to the bus. It's been great fun though, doing this. And like I said, the teams, they've all made their choices now. They'll all be getting ready for the season, which will be coming up in just a week's time. It's going to be great fun.
Yeah, I think the chat have been brilliant, actually. Lots of memes, lots of banter between teams and drivers and stuff. And I think it's a general, we're all just trying to understand this. Me and Lewis, we may be the hosts of this, but we've just tried to have fun with it and understand it best we possibly can and try and extend to you how we understand it as well. And I think it's gone pretty well. I think everyone in the chat can kind of understand that. The support's been incredible. And maybe this is the beginning of more championships like this where we do have a draft. And it's kind of almost like an intro to the championship. So instead of just turning up 10 minutes before the first race and it's like, oh, well, this is happening, race on. It's almost a bit of a casual show. There's nothing too serious about this, of course, apart from the car choices. But yeah, hopefully everyone at home enjoyed it. But yeah, now it's on to the big stuff, isn't it? It's on to the racing.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, obviously, to Niels, who's joined us for a couple of times this broadcast to help us explain through, and through all of the teams and drivers that have actually jumped in between the rounds to give us a little bit of an understanding as to what's been going on. You can see them all there sat and ready. They've all been chatting and getting along. It's all great to see. A big thanks as well to Next Level Racing and to HyperX, who'll be guiding us through the VCOLFM FLExTREME season, which will begin, as I've said before, in a week's time, the 26th of November, when we get that first race underway. It's a 6-round championship. That first race will be in these GT3s, and again, to find out what teams have picked what car, keep an eye on all things social media. From myself, Liz McGlade, from Luke Crane, we'll see you next time, and it really won't be very long. Until then, though, bye-bye.